This is SAs and IPAs, presented by CDI Studios.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Michael Colonno. I'm the AVP of Data Center Solutions here at CDI. Here is the first inaugural episode of SAs and IPAs. We're hoping to tantalize and titilize the audience with some good content here. A little bit of beer, a little bit of technology. And I have co-hosts with me. I have Kyle Mullen. I have Rob Owen. Why don't you give yourself a little introduction there, Kyle Mullen?
Sure. I'm Kyle Mullen, the Vice President of Solutions Architects at CDI. I've been with the company for 14 years now. It's been a wild ride, and I roll into my good friend here, Rob Owen.
Thanks. I appreciate you, Kyle. And thank you, Michael, for hosting today. This is it's going to be an interesting time here. I'm Rob Owen, Chief Architect of CDI. I've been here for 11 years, officially as of October.
Nice.
And I'm very happy to be here with these two gentlemen, as they are very influential characters, not only at CDI, but in my life in general. So I'm looking forward to having a good talk. We're already cracked some beers here, which always makes things better. And what a wonderful scene we're in here, guys. Like with this bar,
it's a great
boutique background. It's very awesome. I'm happy to be here.
So what do we got today, Mike?
Yeah, so I guess I should say also, I've been here for going on 7 years. I actually came in on the implementation side. I was waiting for a space here on the SA side. Previously, I was in a hybrid role, which was good and bad. It's always nice to, when you're doing implementations, to know your own SOW because you wrote it. But it's also awful to write the SOW on the drive to a data center. So that's kind of awful. One of the things I always like to think about is like why people became solutions architects. Because there's always my joke is always just like booze. When people say they don't drink a particular booze, it's because there's a story behind it. I mean, it's Goldschlager. We'll get into that another day. But for
Captain Morgan for me. Captain Morgan.
Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels, just in jet. Wow. Okay.
Can't do it.
Yep.
But for you, Kyle, was there a particular happening, story, event, something that kind of led you down this path?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been surrounded by technology my whole life. I was fortunate my father spent 40 illustrious years at Hewlett-Packard. And so I was introduced to computers and technology in general at a very early age, and I just gravitated towards it. I was in high school, believe it or not, I was the vice president of the computer club.
Ooh.
I don't think I've ever admitted that to anybody.
I don't think I know any of these details.
That's pretty horrendous, and that's by design. I don't want people to know that. But
it's out there now.
I ran with it. I went to the College of New Jersey, graduated degree in computer engineering. Fortunately, Eric Baker, our previous CEO, had a connection to Hewlett-Packard.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough to get an internship at CDI. I was, believe it or not, the first intern at this company. And I guess my manager at the time really liked my presence. I can't say I was the most skilled employee that he had, but he gave me a full-time job at a college as a technical consultant.
Cool.
And then, I spent a couple of years as an account manager at CDI. I combined the two skills of consulting in addition to sales. And fortunately, timing was perfect. Rob was coming over to the CDI house to run the solutions architect team, and he gave me a spot and
nice.
History.
Very cool. All right, cool. Yeah. Rob, I feel like there's with you, it's always a story. So
I'm going to try.
Anywhere?
I was try not to be the chief pontificator. It's hard for me. I tend to get passionate about what I'm talking about. But I mean, for me, it's funny. My dad spent, much like Kyle, he did almost 40 years at AIG and eventually was the CTO of AIG Technologies. So global job. We ran all over the world. I was kind of like an IT brat going up. And I vehemently did not want to get into this world. And the idea of at the time I thought all we did was sit in cubicles and punch away at a computer all day long. I didn't really know that this kind of role existed in the world. So I went to college originally for fine arts. I wanted to be a Renaissance painter. I was going to go live in Europe and have a really good time. And then I woke up one day, probably in the middle of my freshman year, and realized I was going to be this very poor individual, and that wasn't going to work out for me. So switched my majors, ended up with a minor in computer science because I wanted to get done in 4 years. And then I really grinded it out.
Stuck with a fine arts major?
No, I
was going to say, where were you at?
You say changed it, and all of a sudden you just added a minor.
Leonardo da Vinci over here.
I have a degree in communications, which is why I'm doing this podcast.
Okay.
But what really happened was, I was lucky and afforded this job in a knock, and the first job. And to this day, I think you guys have heard me tell this story many times, but that experience, while it was probably the worst job that I had in terms of, pay and hours and just general boredom, worked out really well in my favor because I convinced myself, and I think this is something I try to do all the time, right? Like, you're your own worst enemy a lot of the times, right? Like, people you negotiate in your own mind when you don't want to do something, right? When something's going to be hard, whether it's learning something new or putting in the time for schoolwork, is in this example,
Sure.
you end up negotiating with yourself, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I kind of killed that monkey in my mind and said, well, you had a lot of fun in college, and now it's time to buckle down. And I went out and I got a whole load of certifications at the time, which made me attractive in the market, which then led to my second. Yeah, CompTIA. I spent a lot of time in those Prometric centers getting tests. So I ended up with 3 MCSEs, one of the first VCPs in the country. I had a CCNA, and the combination of those things catapulted my next job, which was level 4 engineering, working on algorithmic trading for Bear Stearns in this close to where we are now in Whippany, New Jersey. But that was kind of the start of getting into this world. And what I always realized was I didn't want to sit at that desk, right? So my premise that existed when I was young, carried over and drove me into being like, if you don't want to be trapped at a desk all day, but you want to do IT, which I was passionate about, right?
Sure.
I could tell stories about what I did in college with it, but again, I don't want to be here for 20 minutes telling the story. That's what drove me to kind of like get to the next step, right? Gotcha. And I knew that the certifications would lead to opportunity, which I'm a big believer in as well. And then kind of the third part of it was, just capitalizing and really understanding like when they were in front of me. And to me, being involved in solution selling, right, which is what we all do. When I saw other people doing it, right, interacting with those people, I said, that's something I feel like I could really kind of grasp onto. Yeah. So that's how I ended up doing this.
Nice. Yeah, so I mean, me, it's a little bit easier to kind of follow the path, right? So I'm not going to go through my whole past. I worked as a restaurant manager for a time. I know, right? I was a restaurant manager for a long time, got into a finance for a weird period of time, but I grew up being a computer nerd. Like, I hacked video games. I sold like guides on how to hack like Diablo 2 and stuff like that through hexadecimal code, right?
Love first-person
shooter.
StarCraft.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
COD.
I had a hack guide on that too. So
I love Call of Duty. Love it. Still to this day.
Yeah.
Aggressively.
So luckily I got a kind of a break when I was trying to decide where the heck I was going to go next from one of my friends, Matt, to be an administrator. And that kind of led me through being in a knock, kind of like yourself. It's like one of those thankless jobs, but you touch literally everything. Is it somebody got married over the summer and needed to change their name on a phone? Is it a wireless access points down? So it gives you that wide breadth and depth of all the different technologies, which is great. Because if you talk to a company, you have that foundation of everything, right? But then I got into implementation. I got so sick of our solutions architects being lazy and missing so many different things. And like, I got blamed for being out of scope, like when I'm not the one that did the scope.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm done with this. So unfortunately at the time, the company I was with, it was kind of that hybrid, like I mentioned, came to CDI, and there wasn't a spot currently on the SA team. Everybody thought I had some promise on the SA team, but at the same time, there just wasn't the room, which obviously makes sense. But I remember very specifically kind of that last straw. I was one of our still customers today. I was at their data center in Syracuse. And
I know where we're going with it.
So I was in their data center in Syracuse, and we were doing new UCS blades.
Yep.
We were doing all this different stuff. And I don't know
Did
if
I do that design?
Hopefully it wasn't me.
Probably.
Yeah, it was definitely you.
And at
curse on this.
And at the time, I didn't realize that the lake effect was a real thing. So we immediately drive across, and it was me, the customer, and one of the network engineers and one of the storage engineers. Literally, we carpooled together. So that was, of course, a hilarious thing by itself. So we carpooled together up, and we hit the sign that says "Welcome to Syracuse." Poof, foot of snow. So here we're driving the data center.
Get out the trains.
So we get there. At the time, I'm a CCNP data center for Cisco, so I know my way around a UCS and a Nexus and everything, right? An MDS. So I get there. We have a couple of issues. Something's not acknowledging the blades or the fabric interconnect. I don't remember exactly what, but like it was already getting pretty late. And so I call Cisco TAC. The guy's clicking around the GUI. I'm like, you are not the dude for me. I need the guy that immediately is going to get in the CLI. That's my guy. how long before I get somebody? So they said, it's got to be like 4 or 5 hours. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay, fine. I round up the troops. We all go to Dinosaur Barbecue.
Oh, nice.
We all grab some beers and some ribs.
It's making lemonade, right?
I have Cisco Tac on the call me while we're wrapping up the tab. And I'm like, listen, I'm not letting you go. You're sitting on the car ride with me. It's like a blizzard outside. We're going. And it's like something like 1 o'clock in the morning at this point in time. So I get back to the colo. I'm sitting there on the floor. This guy immediately gets in the CLI. I'm like, well, this is the guy at least. He fixes it really quick. But I'm sitting here thinking, thank God I could almost walk to the hotel, because I'm here like basically in a blizzard at like 1 o'clock in the morning, sitting on a colo floor. I'm tapping out. I'm tapping out, guys. You know, and that's like where I really was just like, you know what? I want to be an SA. I've thought about it for a long time. I got very lucky. Unfortunately, one of my very close friends and mentors left CDI, but at the same time, it gave me that opportunity to get a spot on the SA team, which is always interesting. I mean, I think that's really what an SA is. I think it's also very interesting. There's a lot of terms that get thrown around, you know, different vendors, different partners, solutions architect, solutions engineer, sales architect, sales. Yeah. So like, I mean, there's so many different things like how you differentiate, because if you think about it, an SA is a very weird position, because by the very nature of it, you're a technical person, which usually you're an introvert, but you also have to do some selling. So you're an extrovert. So you're an extroverted introvert just by the nature of our position, which is like an oxymoron, right?
Yeah, it's like, it's something that I think you guys are like perfect examples of, right? It took me a lot longer to figure out some of the things that I think, you know, the three of us are on the leadership team right here at CDI. And I think one of the things we've done exceptionally well is really focus on that, right? Like focus on the leadership of this. How do we take talented people, right, that may not be SAs, right? And if you look at both of your backgrounds, right, neither of you really had a strong, you know, kind of sales background before you started doing this, right?
Sure.
And
engineering, I was going to slap you.
Yeah,
that part scared me.
No, I mean, but both of you had a very strong base, right? You had a very strong base of engineering, and what I tried to do, you know, kind of in my role was like, all right, how do I take these really two smart guys that I really enjoy? Like, I'm really enjoying just doing this with you guys right now, right? But like, how do I take these guys and make them get through that cycle that it took me, I don't know, like I've been doing this 20 years. It took me 10 years to even figure out what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
And I was lucky to have some mentors along the way, but how do I take this skill set that's clearly well-defined, right? You just told this story about, you know, UCS deployment up in Syracuse, right? And Kyle's got 1 billion of those sleeping on the data center stories, right? And I do too, but how do I take that like kind of 10-year period and shrink it down so that you guys don't have to live through all like the pitfalls and stuff like that? So like, I don't know if it's really a question more than saying like, you know, that's kind of stuff that I think if we can give, you know, people that might be watching this some ideas around like, how do you translate taking a purely engineering role and morph yourself into this kind of unicorny thing that we do. And I think we do well, right? Like we're good at talking, we're good at hanging out. People want to hang out with us, right? But we're also really smart, technical people. Like, well, at least you two are. I'm not so much anymore.
Yeah, I used to be.
You know,
sorts of stuff.
If I can, I kind of, you reminded me of something, and you were talking about how you knew when you wanted to be an SA, and
right,
you did too. And I did not get to that because we talked about not being chief pontificators, and you guys pontificated for 20 minutes. But I got a really funny story as to when I realized. I remember the day I was like, I am done with this.
Well, that's
so like
exactly
I said,
I want that.
I got out of college. I was like 21, I guess, 22, and I started as a consultant. So I was on the Microsoft. Last year. I was on the consulting team, VMware, Microsoft, right? So they had me doing the junior level stuff, data center moves every week. And I want to be partying with my boys, right? So, So after like 3 or 4 or 5 months of nights and weekends, right? I remember this. And Will Chin, who's still at this company, he was the senior guy on the VMware team. He was kind of leading the project. And I was like moving servers out of racks. And it was an overnight move.
Sure.
And I was exhausted and everything was going wrong. I was getting at because my cable management was terrible. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I was like, this is miserable. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go lay down and take a nap. Because it had to have been 4 a.m. and we had like to be out of there by 8 a.m. or whatever. So my boss was like, go lay down. Well, I take a 2 hour. It was not you. I take a 2 hour nap and I wake up and I can't open my right eye. And I'm like, what is going on right now? And I go to the bathroom and I had pink eye. And I'm like, how did I get pink eye? And I'm looking
Stress.
around, and there's this dude that worked for CDI at the time, no longer here,
Okay.
white, going like this in his eye. And I was working with him the whole time. He gave me pink eye overnight, and I'm like, I am absolutely done with this job. The next day, I think I called Rich Falcone. I was like, yo, you got any openings on the sales side? And I think that's how it worked out. But when you said sleeping on the data center floor, that reminded me of pink eye, and I wanted to get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing.
We've all got those stories, right?
Like, I think it's like Rob was saying, like he was able to kind of boil down, render down some of the things he learned to kind of help Kyle and myself. And that's even really our help here, right?
But we're doing that. Like, if you look at it across the board, right? Like, the entire SA team at CDI now is comprised of a lot of people that were not SAs, right? They came from internal
Customer.
moves, right? There's been a lot of opportunity, right? You started off saying, I was waiting for this opportunity. And the mode we're in today and the growth trajectory we have, it's almost like every month we're like, is there anybody within the organization that we can put kind of in the front line of what we do? Right. And then we've also grown entire business lines, within the company that we never did before by going and finding, like, as an example, like in digital, going and finding platform owners of the technologies we want to represent, and then teaching them the render down, to use your language, right? The rendered down version of like, how do you become an SA, right? Like, how do you do what we're even doing right now, right? And it's not always easy or comfortable for everybody. There's certainly a certain type of person that is going to be better at this role than others. But in general, I think, we've really distilled that down, rendered it down, however you want to say it, into a repeatable model. And you guys have taken that ball and run with it at scale now, which is really impressive. Like, I find that to be really cool.
It's an enjoyable experience, right? Technology in general is constantly evolving, right? It keeps us sharp. We're learning something new every day. The company evolves. Like I said, I've been here for 14 years. It's night and day. We were what? EMC, Cisco, VMware exclusive. 7 years ago? 8 years ago?
Well, I mean,
now look at the line.
When I first started, the joke was
200.
that CDI spelled backwards was EMC.
Yeah.
So I mean, like that's what I kind of knew, like, as of CDI before I joined.
Which is okay, right?
Yeah,
that's where we kind of got our foothold. That's
something.
where we had the majority of our success, and we saw the change in the market coming, and we're agile and nimble enough to follow those trends, right?
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's important to really understand, but that's why, like I was even saying, in terms of your guys' backgrounds and our backgrounds, is like, we have a similar theme, right? But at the same time, we came from very different backgrounds of kind of how we got here.
I mean, you have an interesting story just in the sense of how fast you did it all, right? Like, you went from a restaurant manager to where you are now.
Well, in
less time than it took me to figure out what an SA even was, right?
No.
But your 10-year experience versus my 10-year experience were very different.
And it's true. Honestly, it's funny. I just reflected. I was looking at my LinkedIn the other day, and I just surpassed, like, I think last year, where now I'm finally longer in IT than I was in restaurants.
Do you still have your tchotchke with all the little pins? Like,
I do.
Flare.
Flare.
So I mean, not
framed hanging in.
So I was a manager of a fast casual version of PF Chang's.
Ooh, what does fast casual mean? And how do we create a division within the SA team? I want to be on the fast casual.
That's our junior
version
SAs. Our junior SAs.
They're fast and casual. I like that.
Fast and loose.
We should make them wear flair.
You want some?
Yeah,
I think we might
name
have
tags.
Flair. I'm not entirely sure, but we would have it.
Name tags.
So why don't we talk about this beer for a second? Because people. So I want to say it's funny. I notice a theme within SAs in general, that there's always something like the thing I always say is SAs are always some sort of some sort of nerd, right?
Put it on camera one over here.
We have.
We zoom, focus here.
No,
it's a little blurry.
That's bad.
All right, it's
bad.
It's not worried. It's a Flying Fish Hazy Bones Hazy IPA.
Send us beers.
Found it locally.
Yeah, if you want us to review your beer, please.
Does it pair well with crab?
On or off camera?
I think this pairs very well with fish and a crab.
I think it does too.
I do. Melon, if you will.
Melon, fish,
mango, pineapple,
barbecue.
crab.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's also a nice 6.3%, which I enjoy.
It is a good first start, right?
Yeah.
No, but so SAs are always weird, where like everybody's always into something to a crazy degree.
Yep.
We have one person that now moved to the ops team who is into like sports statistics, cards, everything to like a crazy degree, right? you have a couple of people that could tell you through the whole mash process how to make whiskey and is a connoisseur.
Passion. That's what I call that.
Passion. Like, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like,
I mean, we got a guy at CDI that grows rare turtles.
we
literally do.
I'm not kidding.
But that's the thing.
Rare
It's like
turtles.
there's all these weird nuances of personalities, right? And I feel like beer is a good consistency, which is why we kind of picked this, right?
Yeah.
What do we think about this one?
I personally love it.
Yeah, it's
It's a good first brew.
yeah.
You used to trade beers, right?
I used to trade beers back in the day when you couldn't buy them at the store.
Yeah, so I guess we should address
really
that.
good.
We should address that there was an IPA trading coalition within the CDI office.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we're mostly New York, New Jersey, but the refrigerator within our main headquarters location basically acted as a trading post for everybody would bring beers from their particular areas because there was different breweries and there wasn't like ShopRite Liquors didn't have like 40,000 local brewery beers, right? So you were able to be like a share and swap type of thing, like a swap meet, which was pretty.
I mean,
cool.
I used to spend, I'm not even kidding, probably between 8 and 12 hours a month driving to and from and lining up at breweries to go get the allocation of beer. And then you would turn in the parking lot and there'd be some guy there going, hey, I got those beers you want in the back of my van. And you'd go over and be like, all right, I'll give you 2 of these for 2 of those, or these are worth more than what you've got. It was crazy. I had random strangers showing up at my front door. Not good.
Yeah, it was the head of shopper days.
Now you just go to your local
I know, it's true.
Bottle King and there's 3 cold cases full of the best stuff. The stuff I used to literally line up for hours at a time to get.
I know.
But now it's too mainstream. You guys are like, I don't want to.
Now I just want to drink Modelo's and
you
light
used to make
beers.
fun of me for that.
I
That's
know,
true.
but I like the
There's
light.
Peronis.
I like the lights. I like them. I do like an IPA though. I love the IPA, and I also like the brown liquor, which is back here on the wall behind me. I'm a big fan of that. So maybe next time I'll do one of those while we have some IPA.
Johnny?
I know. One of these days, another episode, we'll have to talk about the craziness that is like whiskey and bourbon and how somehow it became like 9,000% markup on all those things.
It's crazy.
Speaking of future episodes, can we ask the fans here what topics they want to hear about?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, definitely, I would say we'll
send it to will.huber@cdilc.com. Your topic of suggestion.
Our illustrious CTO.
I mean, definitely, we'll set up something to email in. I think it would be great to establish some
I think it's
ideas
IPAs
from
and
SAs at
CDILC.com, right?
I
That's
know.
what it's got to be. We'll get it set up at Disney. We'll put it in the description below.
Well, why don't we just finish up real quick with one last final note? I'm sorry.
I thought it was wrapping us up there.
Yeah, no, we're going to wrap it up, but I think let's just finish up with one more thing. One of the other things that I definitely want to cover in future episodes, and I know you both have strong opinions, is just leadership in general, right?
Yeah.
So we won't really go into it today. We'll leave that to the next episode. But definitely, we talk about leadership of not just, people that might report to you, but also your peers, your customers, and the same thing goes, we talked about kind of setting the stage in terms of SAs. Remember, architects aren't just for vendors and for partners. It's also internal. So we're talking to you guys as well. But definitely thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we look forward to your comments.
Hey, guys. Awesome first go-round here.
Cheers.
Cheers to all you guys
Yeah.
and everybody else who's watching. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you on the next one.
SAs and IPAs is a production of CDI Studios, hosted by Michael Colonno, Rob Owen, and Kyle Mullen, and is produced by Alyssa Hall and Spencer Grogan. To learn more about CDI, you can visit cdillc.com.